decades trying to remake the court, overturn Roe. You're possibly single-handedly responsible for the 6-3 majority. So do you take personal credit for abortion rights likely to go away for millions of people in this country?
Yeah, I think the story today is an effort by someone on the inside to discredit the institution of the Senate.
Democrats say that the prospect of Roe being overturned and some of the more restrictive trigger laws coming into effect without exemptions for rape and incest will shock the public and motivate voters in November. What is your response to that? How does this change the midterms?
Well, that's not the story for today. The story for the day is what I just said.
If Roe is struck down, do you see a need for federal abortion restriction legislation in Congress?
Look, all of this puts the cart before the horse. We have 3 Supreme Court clerks in my conference. They all explain the procedure. And our entire conversation today was about what I've just been talking to you about. And you need, it seems to me, excuse the lecture, to concentrate on what the news is today. Not a leaked draft, but the fact that the draft was leaked.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Moscow Mitch is the inventor of the modern-day form of shady partisan politics. Never before had a politician come out and blatantly announce that he intends to do absolutely nothing of his own accord and instead would look to obstruct the opposing party at every possible opportunity, always putting his own election prospects over the well-being of the country.
12 months ago, this president said disagreement must not lead to disunion. But yesterday he invoked the bloody disunion of the Civil War, to demonize Americans who disagree with him. He compared, listen to this, a bipartisan majority of senators to literal traitors.
The Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, said that the midterm elections are going to be a report card on your progress on inflation, border security, and standing up to Russia. Do you think that that's a fair way to look at it? And if so, how do you think that report card looks right now?
I think report cards will look pretty good if that's where we're at. But look, the idea that Mitch has been very clear. He's going to do anything to prevent Biden from being a success.
But that's exactly what McConnell did, and it's about the only item he's ever kept his word on to. There is no one person more to blame for the problems in Washington than Moscow Mitch. He set the standard as leader of the Republican Party, and Republicans are the type of creatures that follow their leaders blindly off a cliff, and follow they have, to the point where there is no dialogue anymore in Congress, and votes always fall along party lines, even if they were to vote on if the sky was blue or not. Yes, we have Moscow Mitch to blame for that. Republicans, being the spineless creatures that they are, peek Mitch's way before every vote to get the word yay or nay. There is no independent thinkers amongst the crowd. They've resolved, along with Moscow Mitch, to his devious plan as the fixed doctrine of the party. And because seizing power is their only actual goal, not actual governance, Republicans have stuck with this plan for years now. It's a cushy deal for them. They whined for 8 years about repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act, and in 4 years couldn't do either. You would think that they would have been prepared, think that they would have had a plan. But no, of course not, because all they wanted was the power. All they did in those 4 years was cut themselves and their financial buddies a tax cut that blew up the economy and the deficit to boot. Yes, Republicans feel they really have it made under Mitch's plan, because it's a plan where they do nothing at all, and nothing at all is the only thing Republicans are good at. And McConnell had the perfect president to fit his plan in Donald Trump, a guy who was simply too incompetent to do anything whether he wanted to or not. The only thing Trump did with his time in office was play golf and hold his evil neo-Nazi rallies in an endless campaign effort, which is fitting because essentially that's the Moscow Mitch playbook. McConnell is an actor as well. In his weird, mumbly, garbled gibberish, he never once takes personal accountability or responsibility and does nothing but finger point all his problems and failures onto his political opposition. Kentucky has a real problem on their hands in making Moscow Mitch their perennial poster boy. You would think after selling out his state's very own coal miners in favor of his Russian financial interests, they might finally vote this scoundrel out. But basically being a career do-nothing isn't a deal breaker within Republican circles. So long as he shares their irrational hatred of the opposition, he could rob these people blind and they'd still vote for him with smiles on their faces. And that's exactly what has happened. And so Moscow Mitch has what he covets the most, more time in the Senate to loiter and to pillage the public's dollar towards his own investments. And so McConnell isn't about to change this game plan of always putting party over country. He needs his lackeys to support him, and so he must appease them, even after January 6th, when our democracy was assaulted. Moscow Mitch in turn assaulted morality and intelligence by playing along with the fascist scheme, providing there was no cost too high for Moscow Mitch to secure his political posture. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.